Shut up and sit down.
By all means, go for it. Have fun. Just leave me alone.
People are coming together more and more and more and more as the government has been failing us more and more.
I'm against being shitty to people.
You can't research your way into understanding somebody.
One way or another, I'd rather have the fight now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fight for Liberty Live on Free Speech Media. Today, we have an awesome guest for you guys, as always. This person from the second best libertarian media outlet in the ether. But first, we're going to tell you a little bit about some of our sponsors. Same as last week. Awesome people. First of all, Nugg of Knowledge. If you're looking to get high like I do every show, go on to nuggofknowledge.com. Use promo code F4L to get 10% off. You will not only support me, Free Speech Media, awesome libertarians like Dan Berman and other cool people at Nugg of Knowledge, and you're also going to get high in the process. So it's a win-win-win situation all the way around. So go on over to Nugg of Knowledge and get yourself some weed. Also, if you haven't already heard about him, Tom Queter is an awesome candidate for New York State Senate. He is running in the 52nd district. I am his deputy campaign manager, so cool things are happening there. But he is actually making a difference. He is out in the community doing real outreach, doing real campaigning, and I'm really excited to be a part of this campaign. So go to tomfor52.com to find out more about his campaign, or there's a link in the description that you can click if you want to donate to the campaign. We would really appreciate it because our campaign manager really wants to get paid more. So go make her happy and donate to the campaign. We'd all really appreciate it. But yeah, today we have awesome person, founder, and I didn't even ask your official title, at Muddied Waters Media, the one, the only, Matt Wright. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me on, David. It's good to be here. I'm glad to be here. You make so many less jokes than we do about the people that give us money to advertise for them.
I love the way that you guys do your advertising blog. And honestly, like I actually watched probably 4 or 5 episodes of yours and Spike's show, an episode or two, like just the beginning chunk of it, an episode or two of Cajuns, and a couple of other shows on Muddied Waters when I started doing promotions, just because I was like, okay, how do other people do this shit? Because like I was so clunky with it and it was awful. And watching you guys make fun of your sponsors makes it a lot easier.
It's so when we first got sponsors, I was the same. Like I was the same way. I was like, and so initially when we first started, when we first started, Kava was the only sponsor, and it was from this place in here in Florida in Gulfport called Low Tide, and I'd be like, hey, thanks to Low Tide for the Kava, and that was it. Like it was easy. But then after that, like we started getting real sponsors, and I would try to do like serious ad reads, and I couldn't do it. So I just stopped taking sponsors. I was like, I sound like an idiot. And then Spike came on and he didn't know how to do it. So he just made fun of one. And then we were like, yes, we can do that. That's what we can do. Mm-hmm. So we just started making fun of everybody, and it was great.
I should make more fun of Tom Queter because, well, he's just a great target for being made fun of.
Yes. He is rolling for state senate, and he's going to be more fiscally responsible than anybody else in the New York State Senate because he's bringing his own chair.
This is great. He's one of your guys' sponsors too, correct?
Yeah. He's one of our sponsors. Those are both jokes that I have made. Those are both jokes I've made about Tom. But Tom is a great guy, and he's a fantastic advocate for liberty, and he just a wonderful activist. And when he wins, it's just going to be a huge win for everybody.
Yeah, agreed.
And especially in New York.
Yeah, we could use one non-tyrant in our
Right.
capital. Just one would be nice.
Just one. Just one. You just need one voice in there being like, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Right. What a novel idea.
Right.
So I always like to start off with somewhat of a kind of libertarian testimony. So I'm curious, how did you find out about libertarianism and what brought you into this wild world?
So I found out about libertarianism a couple of years before, actually quite a few years before I joined the party or got involved in any way. But I started identifying as a libertarian pretty early. Um, but I was doing real estate in Virginia, and I was sitting there at the computer one day, and I was going through and just bored out of my mind, and I ended up taking the world's smallest political quiz, and because that's not at all a biased quiz meant to make people think that they're libertarian. Not even a little bit.
Nope.
So I took the world's smallest political quiz, and I came back being a libertarian, and shockingly for that quiz. And
I hate that you said that answer because I was literally just arguing with Evan McMahon from Indiana last night on the show about how much I hate the world's smallest political quiz.
I hate it. So I took it and it was like, you're a libertarian. And I went, huh. And I'd never heard it before. I had no clue what one was. And my dad was behind me. And I went, hey, Dad, what's a libertarian? He goes, it's a Republican who smokes weed. I went, oh, because this quiz says I'm a libertarian. He goes, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I went, oh. And I'm okay. So
nice.
I started looking up more stuff about what libertarianism was, because I was like, huh, that's interesting. And they were saying that Clint Eastwood was a libertarian, and then he appeared at the GOP convention for Mitt Romney, and I was like, no, you're not. And so I started doing more research into it. And when I left Virginia and I moved to Nashville, and I started working at this restaurant on 12 South called Mafiosa's, and it was a great pizza place. Still is a great pizza place. And my boss there, one of my bosses there, was this guy named Brett Corrieri, and he was really involved in the Libertarian Party and in activism. And he and I started talking. We bonded over baseball because we shared the same baseball team, but then we started talking politics, and we had a lot of the same views. And he started kind of guiding me a little bit in what true liberty was and what we were aiming for at the end goal. And then by the time I moved down to Florida, I was like, well, I'm a libertarian. That's it. So I joined the LP down here, and quickly became, because, if you join the LP, you're going to get a committee seat the first day. Mm-hmm. And I became the secretary the first day.
Nice.
And then I became the treasurer, and then I became the vice chair. And then I left the party. So
that's an understandable trajectory. I don't blame you. Yeah, my first ever. So I went to a couple meetings upstate before I moved down to the city, but my first meeting of the Manhattan LP, I became their events coordinator.
Yep.
And a friend of mine, whose name I won't say on this show because your partner would kill me, also joined the party the same day and became our social media manager.
Yeah.
And yeah, we both just got thrown in there. We both were coming from other parties. She was from San Francisco and a state committee member from California and everything before she got here. But yeah, it was interesting to just be like, oh, you showed up. Do you want to be on our executive committee? Because we need people.
That's what. So there was this guy, he was running for Congress in a special election here in Pinellas County. And I knew that the special election was coming up, and I knew that there was a libertarian that was running. And I was like, oh, I want to go and check this guy out. So I went to a meeting, and he and I kind of hit it off almost immediately. And we kind of became buddies. And I don't talk to him at all anymore. I think he's a Democrat now. I'm not even 100% sure. But he recommended me to become secretary like the first meeting I met him and I talked to him. The second meeting, he was like, "Hey, you're a writer who does stuff online. You should be our secretary." And I went, "Okay, sure." And I naively, because I did not know much about the Libertarian Party and the affiliates at the time, thought that that could lead me into a job.
Oh.
Or at least paying. That's not, yeah, I know. I know. That's yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah, we don't pay people.
No,
But
not even a
now
little bit.
you are a lucrative podcaster, and we
Yeah,
know
I'm a
that
lucrative
is
podcaster.
just you just hit the money rolls on that one, right?
I did, yeah. Those singles a week that I make podcasting is massively they're a difference maker.
So on that topic though, what made you want to get into podcasting? Why'd you start the show?
I did not want to. No, so okay. So as anybody that's watched Muddied Waters of Freedom or the Writer's Block know, I drink a drink called kava. Drink it all the time. So when I quit drinking 7 years ago on September 7th. Yeah, September 7th. I had to think about that for a second. I quit drinking September 7th, 7 years ago. And there was this place that opened up that was a kava bar only a couple blocks from my house, which is Low Tide. And so I went there because it gave me a social outlet, a place to go hang out with people. And you could drink this all natural root that tastes terrible, but you know, it was something to do that wasn't alcohol. And
can't taste any worse than alcohol. Never mind. I've had kava. I know better than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not gonna tell you it tastes better.
Yeah. It tastes about PBR level.
Right. Right. I mean, this literally looks like you ground up a potato and are drinking it liquefied, and it tastes very similar. And I drink it every day. But so I started hanging out at this place, and at that time there was a state senator whose name I am blanking on right now, but she was working on banning kratom from the state of Florida. And there's a whole backstory to it. A kid killed himself. And because politicians will always rest on the graves of dead children, she was resting on the grave of this one and said it's because of the kratom. He killed himself because he was addicted to kratom. So she was working on getting it banned. So I started going to Tallahassee to talk in front of the Florida Assembly in order to make them not ban it. And it never got through. It never got through to a vote. It just never made it all the way through committees. It would make it through one or two, but it wouldn't make it to the floor. Mm-hmm. So we considered it a win. She tried year after year, but every year she just got less. It went less and less. And she eventually gave up because she knew there was just no way to stop it at that point. So I did that while I was still on the Libertarian Party of Pinellas County. And there was a guy who was I think he was the chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus. I believe he was the local chapter chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus. And he asked me if I wanted to start doing a podcast. And I was like, no, I don't. That sounds terrible. That sounds like a whole lot of work for absolutely no money. I was right.
You were right.
I was 100% right. But he just kept asking me. His name was Muhammad Shaker. Still is Muhammad Shaker. He's still with us. But his name is Muhammad Shaker, and he just kept asking me if I wanted to do one. And I was like, no. And then he wore me down. It was like, when you ask a girl out like 8,000 times and she finally goes, fine, we can get coffee. So I was like, okay, but if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And we are going to try to turn it into a job that we can eventually make money at. And so we did our first episode, and it was god awful. We actually, on Saturday, will be the 5-year anniversary of that show.
Wow.
Yeah, Saturday is the 5-year anniversary of that show. So yeah, we did our first show and it was terrible. We did our second show and it wasn't much better. And then we started kind of learning how to do it because we were just learning on the fly. And then we started moving forward, moving on, and we started getting a pretty decent base. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with me and Muhammad. And he ended up leaving Muddied Waters, but we've been able to take it from, the humble beginnings of two guys sitting around this computer and just talking into no microphone to what you see when you turn on Muddied Waters of Freedom or the Writer's Block or My Fellow Americans. But now we have Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, and Cajun and Eskimo, and Liberty Roundtable, all on this. Like, it started with me not wanting to do it, but it started with me wanting to fight for liberty to keep Kava and Kratom legal in Florida.
Mm-hmm. I love it when people say "fight for liberty" unironically on my show. It's my favorite. I had one guest who literally said it. I counted. She said it 12 times in the hour and 20-minute episode. And I was just giggling. And she forgot that it was the name of the show until I made a joke at the end. And she was like, "Oh, I forgot that was
that's the name." Oh my God, he said the name. He said the name of the show.
I've wanted to do like I've wanted to do like a Liberty podcast bingo night on Clubhouse where we just have a Clubhouse room and then there's bingo cards that we distribute somehow. And every time someone unironically says a podcast name in conversation, you check it off and, whoever gets bingo first.
Fight for liberty. Done. I don't know. They're muddying the waters. It's close enough. We'll count it.
Break the cycle is another one that I hear in conversation often enough.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
But so it's interesting that you didn't really get into this. You weren't one of those people that was like, I love the sound of my own voice, and I think other people would too. Let me put it out there into the ether for all 3 people to watch.
Now that has changed immensely, and I love the sound of my own voice now, and I think everybody needs to hear what I have to say. See, it's the reason I brought Writer's Block back, because I was like, man, Spike takes up so much airtime. I need to start my show back up so I get to talk more.
So how did you get Spike and Jason and Cajun and Eskimo and everybody else on the team?
So Spike was first, and what happened there was when Muhammad was still a co-host of Muddied Waters of Freedom with me, he was going through some stuff at the time, so he wasn't being able to show up to all the shows, which, it sucked, but that's what eventually led. He was like, I need to step away. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I didn't really know what I was going to do, but before that, he couldn't make it to a show. And I had written an article trashing a libertarian senatorial campaign. And I demolished that guy in that article. And some people say that I'm the reason he didn't get the nomination. I'm not going to say that, but other people can say it. But the guy turned out to be a massive Nazi that sacrificed goats and is in prison now. So, I'll take the credit if you want to give it to me. But he, so I wrote an article trashing this guy's campaign. And I said, this guy's a fake. He's a phony. And thank God I'm a libertarian because I don't have to vote for anybody because I'm used to my people not winning. So during that time period, so when I wrote that, Spike added me on Facebook. We had never met, and he added me. And about a couple of months later, I was struggling with my sobriety some, and I made a Facebook post about it because, You know, if you're not doing it for if you're not sober for attention, why are you really doing it?
Right.
Right. So I made a post about it, and he messaged, you know, my health, wanting to live.
Right.
But
well,
he
that's
messaged
clearly
me,
not
like,
it.
No, obviously, I'm still a podcaster. But so he messaged me and he was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I also am sober." And so we ended up talking for like 2 hours that night. And then a couple of weeks later, Muhammad was like, "Hey, I can't be on the show. I just can't do it today." And I was like, "Okay." So I messaged Spike and I said, "Hey, do you want to guest host?" And he was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." So he came on and we had a lot of fun. And I believe at the time, Muddied Waters of Freedom was a half hour to 45-minute show. It's now 2 hours for anybody who has never watched it. But it started out at a half hour to 45 minutes. And then Spike came on and it was an hour and a half, just because we had such a good time talking. And so Muhammad and I, we went through everything. And I took a trip to Alaska for the summer because I took a job working in Alaska at a jewelry store. And I was worried that Muddied Waters was just going to die while I was gone. So what I did was I said, "Hey, Spike, do you want to host your own show on Muddied Waters?" And he was like, "Yes, I do." And I was like, "Great, you should do that." And so I moved the schedule around so that Muhammad would do a show on Mondays, Muddied Waters of Freedom would be on Tuesdays, Spike would be on Wednesdays, I would be on Thursdays, and then we had Fridays open for somebody else at a future date. And so Spike was doing his show. Muhammad and I were doing Muddied Waters of Freedom occasionally, but not often. And then I was doing the writer's block. And the writer's block started out as only a half-hour show, and it's only gone an hour. Like, I think our longest one's like an hour and a half. But so we ended up, I didn't want Muddied Waters to die, so I wanted to expand. And that was where kind of the gamble was. So I ended up saying, okay, we're going to expand. And then when Muhammad left, I needed to find a new co-host for Muddied Waters of Freedom. And out of sheer laziness, I asked Spike because I didn't want to talk to anybody else. I was like, "Do you want to do this?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's do this together." And I was like, "Great." So out of laziness, I got Spike as my co-host. And we had great back and forth. Anytime that we'd been on each other's shows, we'd had a great time. So it just made perfect sense. And we were starting to kind of get into our rhythm. The show was looking better. The show was sounding better. People were starting to come to our page and pay attention to it. And we were on Twitter one night and we found Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, and we found his podcast. And in it, he said, "Hey guys, it's Tuesday night. Really glad you all are here. I just want to let you all know there's another show out called Muddied Waters of Freedom that airs at the same time. And if you are watching that, if you're watching this, you might want to go watch that." And so we listened to a couple of his episodes that night, and both of us said, "Hey, do you want to add him?" Because he was doing Tuesdays and Fridays. I said, "Do you want to add him and see if he'll do Monday and Friday?" And Spike was like, "Yeah." So I messaged him and he got all giggly and he was like, "Yeah, I want to." He literally giggled like a schoolgirl.
I don't doubt this at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you know Jason, it makes perfect sense because he gets super excited and he's like, his entire body clenches up a little bit and he's just like, so I messaged him and I said, "Hey man, do you want to join Muddied Waters Media? We were listening to your show and we really like it." And he was like, "Yes, I want to." And we were like, "Great." And I said, "The only thing is you can't have Tuesday." And he goes, "Okay, I'll do Monday and Friday." I was like, "Great, I don't even have to pitch this." He's like, I'll just move it." I'm like, "Cool. All right, that works for me." What color crayon? Patricia Marie asked what color crayon I offered him. It wasn't either of these two. These two are mine. These two I did not steal from his daughter. I stole his daughter's crayons accidentally when I was in South Carolina. But so I asked if she
Stand-up
wanted
guy.
me on. You know, she left them in the car. I just didn't see them. I would have taken them out. I felt bad. I didn't strip them back. They're right there. Yeah, literally right here. I've got them. Because they've got the sharpener right here on the back. So I mean, this is high quality crayons action right here. So she's never getting it back, but she.
I support
so
this.
Jason. Now I have a perfectly sharpened blue. But so Jason was doing Mondays and Fridays, and then he had a baby, and then they had some other issues that came up health-wise and stuff in the family. So he had to take a step back. So Spike and I were just doing our shows, and the stress was getting to us real hard because we were making 23 cents a month on Muddied Waters, and it was getting to the point that we were not even wanting to do it anymore. And the only thing that saved us was the South Carolina convention. Jason invited us to the South Carolina convention to stream the presidential debate. That if you've never seen that stream, there's a reason why, and that's because it never aired, and that was it. No fault of ours. But so it never aired, but we got together and we ended up meeting a lot of people at this convention, and that was where we Spike and I stayed with Vermin Supreme on that trip. And that was where Spike started his whole thing for, that office that he ran for.
It's like Senate, right?
Yeah, something. I don't know.
Congressman.
Yeah, I don't know. State senator. I don't know. But that was kind of where all of that kicked off from. And it was because of all of that we had this new groundswell, and we had all of this energy behind us, and there was no way we were going to get rid of it. So we just kept pushing through, and me and Spike were just pushing through and doing everything we could to make sure that Muddied Waters continued to be a success, and that it continued to look good, and that it continued to sound good. And for anybody who watches our shows regularly, we fail a lot at that, but we try. We do this on like 23 cents a month. But
every time my internet cuts out, I say that I'm like, they won't let me on Muddied Waters, but my internet won't take that no to heart, and so it thinks that I'm on Muddied Waters, and it treats me like my show is a Muddied Waters show.
It does, yes. Right, because I don't get what internet
Somehow
companies.
All of you guys, just it's impossible.
Like Facebook hated me for I have no idea why. I'd had one 24-hour ban in the 14 years that I was on Facebook, and then they just deleted my profile completely. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, that sucks.
Was that during the purge during the election?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that morning very well because my wonderful significant other, superfan Sarah Anderegg, comes into the room, and she has coffee and breakfast. And she wakes me up gently, and she's like, "Hey, I made you breakfast, and here's some coffee." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." She goes, and I'm like eating it and drinking the coffee, and she goes, "I have some bad news." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Your Facebook is gone." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's gone. Like, I thought you broke up with me last night because it showed that I was no longer in a relationship with you, and I got mad." And I was like, "What?" And I went to my phone and I went to sign in, and it was gone. And I fought it, and they said, "No, we don't care." And so I started a new Facebook that was under different pseudonyms for a while, and now it's back to just being me. But yeah, then Cajun is banned like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He is on like his fourth 30-day ban.
Mm-hmm.
He's on his fourth 30-day ban or whatever.
I mean, it's understandable, he's a very vulgar, grotesque person, It's not like he's like the most wholesome dad dude ever.
Right. He's like the sweetest person ever. He's like the sweetest person ever, especially when it comes to like his wife and kids. He just really dislikes Fauci, and he has no problem saying it. So they're just like, no, you can't hate Fauci here.
I still don't understand how I really haven't gotten taken down from anything. I've gotten a couple of like minor shadow bans that have all gone away. I've had 1 3-day ban from Twitter and 1 3-day ban from Facebook. And the Facebook one was just dumb shit. It was like a 3-year-old meme that was something along the lines of like, I'm requesting $5 from everyone, or else I'll send you nudes. Kind of like the joke. And they banned me for 72 hours for like soliciting pornography. And
but you were doing
the opposite. Exactly.
You were doing the opposite. You were literally saying, give me money or you will get porn.
Right.
That's not soliciting. That's giving away for free or being paid not to.
Right. Their algorithm couldn't figure out the difference. And then I got banned from Twitter for 3 days for telling Hillary Clinton to go, quote, suicide another pedo friend of yours.
That got you 3 days on Twitter?
So God. I understand, honestly, like I'm not even mad about that one because I understand that I tricked the algorithm by saying go suicide. Like it thought I was encouraging her to kill herself.
Yeah, that's probably what did it.
Yeah, I understand that it didn't get that I was using suicide as a verb to kill someone else like that. Right. And even then I'm still like encouraging violence, so
yeah.
Shit
I mean,
happens.
Twitter's about to get so much worse with the new CEO over there. Jack Dorsey was not good. Which Jack Dorsey's not good when he announces his resignation and the stock jumps 10 points. Like, he's terrible. But then they put in this other guy who's like against free speech and he's like, no, you can say what you want, but we just don't have to let anybody hear it. Well, that's what? That's not what you're supposed to say at all.
Yeah.
You wonder why your stock was failing before. Yeah. So Twitter, I think, is going to at least be on par with Facebook soon, if not worse.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure how I have a YouTube channel, or how really any of us have a YouTube channel.
I have no clue. I named one of our episodes, this episode is going to be demonetized, and it didn't get demonetized.
I haven't even tried to monetize my account because I just assume it's not going to happen.
Yeah, like everything we have on like most of what we have on there, unless Cajun speaks, is demonetized, is monetized, unless it's like a copyright thing. Pretty much anytime Cajun says anything, it's going to get demonetized.
Yeah, I do too much of this on the show.
Yeah,
I know they don't like that.
They don't like that. They do not like that. Which I think is weird because everybody that Google does.
That's why Joe Rogan stopped smoking on his show, was because he kept getting demonetized. Like he used to constantly be smoking, and then now like the last probably year and a half, you don't really see a joint on his show ever. And even since he made the jump to Spotify, he's been less careful about it, but it's still so much less. It's weird how little he smokes on the show now. He must just get blazed beforehand.
Blazed beforehand, or the camera's not on him and he's just like
probably that one.
Turn off my mic, I got to do this so fast.
So I'm sad about Jack Dorsey because like he was getting based.
Maybe like he was obviously reading Mises. He was obviously reading Mises, and he was what happened in 1973? 3, whatever. And he was I don't know. He was tweeting that out, and then he tweeted out human action, and I was like, okay, like cool, but he was still banning. The platform was still banning people. It wasn't changing. He could
Do you
have.
think that he had any handle in that?
Yeah, I would assume. I think he could have gone in there and been like, okay, this is what we're doing now. We're not going to keep banning people from the platform, because that's obviously, I would like to say it's a losing model, but it seems to be working for Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So I think he could, but I don't know if he would.
He was as much CEO as like Biden is president. Like, especially because he got fired from Twitter and then they hired him back as CEO. So like they already kind of asserted their dominance over him as a company.
Right.
So I'm the optimist in me is leaning towards he got too based and they pushed him out. And so now we have a newly extra pissed off based billionaire in America.
Right. Well, like,
maybe,
so he was on
hopefully.
He was on Tim Pool. When he was on Tim Pool, I don't remember when that was, but he was on Poolcast or whatever Tim Pool's show is called. And he was like, we don't want people out there. We don't want people out there who are going to be harassing people, who are going to be, going after people. So we have been taking them off the platform. And Tim Pool said, well, people do that to me all day and you don't take them off the platform. And Jack was just like dumbfounded. He's like, I don't know what to say to that even a little bit. And I mean, maybe he was kind of coming around at the end, especially after his utterly embarrassing appearance in front of the Senate. Maybe he was like, man, this is bad what I've done. And now I can't keep defending it. And that could be why they kicked him out this time. Because I don't think he resigned. I think he got kicked out.
I'm going to lean towards him just out of like hope.
Yeah, I think he got kicked out. I don't think he left. I think that they were like, no, our stock is dropping. You're tweeting out stuff from Mises. Like we're done. And they put somebody who's like a complete authoritarian in charge, a complete authoritarian on free speech in charge. And they're like, we're going to compete with Facebook on who can be worse on free speech.
Yeah. Not looking forward to that war.
All of us are gone one day. Just every show, every libertarian podcast gone, wiped from the internet.
I mean, that's a pretty likely scenario within the next
year. It is a likely. It is. I would give it like, I would think in the next 5 years, it's a very likely scenario, which is why people need to start going to other sites like Rumble or whatever. The only problem with Rumble is it's not free because they don't mine your data.
Yeah. At least we've got Odyssey that exists.
Right.
Float is interesting.
Huge. I love Float. I love Float. Float is fantastic.
I don't use it because I don't understand it, and I'm so bad. I barely can keep up with my Twitter and my Facebook. My Facebook activity is almost non-existent since I started getting involved on Twitter, and you can see it on my page's analytics. If you look at my page analytics, it took a nosedive in January because I started getting popular on Twitter and spent all my time on Twitter and just stopped posting shit from my page on Instagram and Facebook. So Float was just a whole nother one. And I'm just like, guys, I can't. I have an account. Free Speech Media has an account. This is streaming on Float on the Free Speech Media account. However, there's no other content that goes to that account other than my live stream.
The best thing about I'm totally going to give Float a pitch here.
Please.
The best thing about Float, I will. The best thing about Float is they can tip you like right from like you don't need followers, you don't need anything. They can tip you right from the app. Right from the app in Bitcoin. Of course, it's not going to open on my phone right now. But they tip you right from the app. If you have the app, I'm on an iPhone, so I'm never going to get a Float app because they're not going to make it. And the quality that you see on Float is so fantastic in comparison to what you would see on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter. It's up there with how nice it is on Twitch. Like Twitch is some of the nicest streaming quality out there, and Float is right there with it. It is. So yeah, if you have an iPhone, you have to use the browser, but it is fantastic, the quality that's on there. And the people who started it, Kingsley and Aaron and those people, they're all wonderful people. All wonderful, wonderful people. And I'm a huge fan of them and what they are attempting to do. What they're attempting to do with Float, and I want it to be huge. I want it to be so big.
Yeah, I feel like I'm an extreme hypocrite when I don't use it, because I'm a huge advocate of like we need to beat these people with free market alternatives to combat the big tech monopolies, and those exist, and I don't use any of them.
Yep. Yeah, that is something that I've noticed that all libertarians fall into. They're like, Facebook sucks. We need to get off of Facebook, they say, while typing on their Facebook. And it's like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg's terrible. Well, why are you posting that on his app? I mean, I do it too. I'm not like calling anybody out specifically because I do it all the time. But yeah, using like Parler, we used Parler a little bit before, Parler went away. I think it's back now. I'm not even 100% sure. We used Parler for a little bit, and we were getting some pretty decent follows on there, and then it went away. And like I would go through my timeline, and I'd like be like, oh, who's this? And I'd like check out profiles. I was like, oh, this person is terrible. this person's just awful. Like, wow, they've said a lot of mean things about people like my co-host, and I don't like that at all.
I had a Parler account and I went on it for a few days, but again, I'm just not good at learning social medias. It took me a long time to really get the hang of Twitter. I downloaded it for my campaign in like September, re-downloaded it in like September of 2019, and maintained less than 200 followers until like late summer 2020. And I caught the no libertarian under 1,000 thing that happened last summer. It didn't not as well as some other people, but actually my Fight for Liberty account, I made a tweet about it really early on. It's like probably like the third or fourth native tweet that was a follow chain for no libertarians under 1,000, and like Adam Kokesh shared it right away, and so that was like that got Fight for Liberty about 1,200 follows in probably 48 hours, which was awesome. And then I finally surpassed it with my personal account.
I don't even think my personal account has 1,000 followers. No,
I don't think so either.
I've got 600. And, yeah, I've got 607. I don't ever use my I never use my personal account. I'll be like, I need to use my personal Twitter a little bit more, and I'll go on and I'll tweet about like a movie I've seen, and then I'm like, all right, now let me go back to the Muddied Waters account that does everything, and like I just do everything on that, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to use my personal, and yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm the opposite with the Fight for Liberty account now. I go on it to just retweet the stuff that I tweeted and to tweet about the show, and that's about it.
Yeah, if you go to Muddied H2O Matt on Twitter, hit follow, please. But if you don't, I don't care. Like you'll see Muddied Waters retweet. I don't. You'll see Muddied Waters retweets something about some movie or TV show I watched, and then like nothing for years. And then eventually you'll see the reason that I'm not allowed to fly on Frontier Airlines anymore, because I went on a tirade on Twitter about Frontier Airlines, and they told me I was never allowed to fly on them again. And then if you go back not much further than that, you'll see where I say, this is a stupid app. I see why so many people leave it. I think that was like my second tweet.
Some serious foresight there.
Yeah.
So
I predicted it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is still a shit app, but so I had to walk those words back already once today, so I'll do it again. It's a shit app, but this year it has done things for me that I can never like fully express my gratitude to this shit app for like the connections that I've been able to make. Like I've been able to take people from what is a libertarian to dues paying member of their state party and active volunteer at least about 30 to 40 times this year just on Twitter alone, because and really because I rode my friend Reed's coattails with the Liberty Unity movement this year. It was basically like me, him, and Jeremy Todd kind of started this thing, and I became known as the person that people could ask about, like, hey, I kind of want to get involved in my state party. Do you know the person? Because I was both the Prague outreach director and I was like the most involved in the national party of the three of us. Jeremy has now surpassed me at that. But Reed never really cared about the party. So like he wasn't a person to reach out to about that. So it all fell to me. And that was fucking amazing, because I was actually doing that. I was connecting people with their state chair or county chairs like all across the country, and it was awesome. I got to meet and interview some of my personal heroes like Mark Pellegrino, which was one of the most surreal moments of my entire life. Also way too early. I'm never doing another morning interview ever again, because I almost slept in and I woke up like 5 minutes before we went live and just like poured a cup of coffee, and you can still see it in my eyes. Like I'm half awake starting that interview. Meanwhile, like vibrating with excitement because I'm interviewing like someone I've been watching on TV for a decade. But yeah, Twitter sucks, but it's also been awesome at the same time. I don't know. It's weird.
I get that. You and I take a different way. Like people are like, what do you think about what the LP National did, and pick a random place? And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Why would I care?
So since then I've taken that approach, but for the first like 7 months of the year, I was way too plugged in. And then the Prague Caucus dissolved, Liberty Unity kind of dissolved. My friendships with a lot of people in the Mises Caucus dissolved. I started talking to people who were not involved in the party, started working for your co-host, and I was kind of just like, you know what, this stuff is bullshit. Like I'm just gonna focus on Spike and like people that are actually putting in work and making a difference.
Something.
Right.
Yeah. And so God, when was it? That was 2020. 2020, I was doing like campaign work, but not for libertarians. I was doing it for Republicans and Democrats that I agreed with because they paid. But I had to agree with you. Like that was it. Like I had to agree with you, and you had to pay me. Those were the only two criteria I had. And like people were like, why would you work for a Republican? And I'm like, because, well, he's giving me $20 an hour to go out and talk to people, to go knock doors. Libertarians want me to do that for free. And I don't know exactly what Spike is working on, which is weird. People think that I do, but I don't. But I think like he's trying to, I really don't. I also don't care. But I think he's trying to figure out a way to make it where I don't. Like not even a little bit. Oh, you're going to get somebody else elected into office. Good for you. They're going to turn out exactly the same. They're going to get in there and they're going to taste the power. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, now I'm not going to stop running. I'm getting way too many kickbacks. I'm like, oh, you're just like the rest. I've become so cynical. Podcasting has ruined me.
That's the quote for the graphic
Right.
later. Podcasting has ruined me.
Podcasting has ruined me. It's made me so narcissistic, and it's made me incredibly cynical. But yeah, so like I was out doing that, and people were like, "Why would you do that?" I was like, "Well, I agree with them on enough stuff that I feel okay doing it." You know, and I don't have to work for a libertarian. What? Because you're not. You're volunteering for a libertarian. You're not working for them. And if once you figure out a way that libertarians can win and they start getting money, sure, people will be more inclined to go out and knock doors, or as most people do in those jobs, say they're going to knock doors, then throw away the flyers and nap in their car. But we when I was doing it, like people were like, "Yeah, what do you like about this candidate?" And I would just say the things I liked, and they say, "What do you don't like about the candidate?" And I would say what I didn't like, and they're like, "But the likes outweigh the dislikes, so I'm okay with it." I did work for one guy that I did not like, but I really needed the money, and I was like,
I did that too.
Yeah, that was a soul-sucking adventure. But
What's
then somebody I
really-
liked entered the race.
Oh, see,
So
that's
I
weird.
switched.
Nice. I actually worked for Trump and Biden last year. Technically, I worked for PACs that were supporting Trump or Biden. And the PAC that I worked for Biden was the best job I've ever had in my life. Straight
Really?
up, like paid the best, treated me the best, treated their employees well. Like the whole organization was just a fantastic work environment. Like it was weird. It was legitimately a weird place where like a great example is one of our girls literally got propositioned while she was out knocking doors. Somebody thought she was a hooker. And they gave her the rest of the day off paid, asked her if she wanted the next day off paid to like fucking emotionally recover from this. She didn't take the next day off, like she still worked, but they offered it to her. You know, there was a couple of like other health issues that happened on the campaign that they were like super understanding about, and then they fired me and paid for my plane ticket home. Like, just awesome job. And I was making like $23 an hour. I was like,
You know, that
okay.
I mean,
Plus bonuses. They were giving me a bonus for using my own phone, a bonus for driving myself, a bonus for something like I was getting like 3 or 4 daily bonuses just for like being a competent employee. So it was actually more like 25 an hour. It was like, yeah, I can do this.
that's what
and-
I mean.
and it was
That's
a
what
favor for a
happens when
friend.
people. That's what happens when people donate obscene amounts of monies to political campaigns.
Right.
They're like, "Hey, yeah, we'll just give you. Here's money."
So guys, go to tomfor52.com/donate. Then donate some obscene amount of money so that we can actually treat our fucking staff correctly on this campaign. Please.
Right, because without that, you're not going to get the best. It's just not going to happen. Somebody asked me to write a short script for them because I do that in my free time, which I don't have much of, but I'll still do it. And they're like, "Hey, will you write me a short horror movie?" I was like, "Yeah, how long do you want it?" And they're like, "I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. So I wrote a story. I wrote a script, and it was about a guy who was knocking doors for a candidate. And he was apolitical. He didn't care. He just needed the money, much like me. And he went to he was knocking doors, and he went to a house, and he ends up getting kidnapped, tortured, and raped by this woman who hates his candidate. And like, I was like, "Here you go." And they were like, they read it and, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" Why?
Why would you possibly think I'm not okay?
They're like, "This is dark." I'm like, "Yeah, it's
I wanted a
politics.
horror movie.
You wanted horror, you got it." I just used what I know.
Man, okay, do you know Evan McMahon, the state chair in Indiana, by any chance?
Uh,
Because because it's weird. He was on my show last night, and he directs horror movies and produces horror movies. So I'm just like, you said like that's the third thing that you've said that like matches up perfectly for like a 2-parter episode of like yesterday and today. You guys are just like on the same path.
I'm gonna send Evan a couple of my horror scripts that never got made and be like, here, man, just make them. Just make them and throw the Muddied Waters logo on it in the production credits. Say it's a Muddied Waters Media production. No, I've talked to Evan before, but I don't know him.
It's just
I had no idea.
Your other is being real supportive.
Yeah, the podcast's ruined me.
Yeah. It's not selling your soul to politics beforehand.
It's no, it's not that. It's not that. I probably wouldn't have been like, so I was working at that Kava bar Low Tide, and I ended up, I say leaving that job. Some other people phrase it differently. And if that hadn't have happened, I probably would not be as bad as I am now, because when I left, I was like, crap, I only know how to do 2 things, and that's drink kava and talk politics now. So, all right, well, I guess we're just going to go full-fledged into this.
Can relate on that one. I interviewed for a couple of jobs. I thought maybe for a second there I was going to move to Ohio and possibly step out of politics for a bit, try to get a normie job. And so I interviewed at a couple jobs, and it was weird. It was super weird just talking about like normal shit. Like I wasn't ready for the questions. I used to be so good at job interviews. Like I had, like, tell me a time when you've risen above the blah 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 blah. And I used to fucking, because I used to do interviews. Like that's one of my favorite things I've ever done as a corporate person, was like interviewing people. Fucking love it. They're terrified, and it's so much fun. I like it for other reasons.
Fear. I feed on their fear, and I see them sweating, and it makes me happy.
Well, it's one of the few places in like normal jobs where the ability to read people actually is useful. Like to be able to make quick decisions and ask him the right questions. It's not a skill that is really useful in most areas of life. A little bit in sales, sometimes in politics and like door knocking and petitioning and that kind of stuff, it's helpful. But I didn't really get to use that skill much. But interviewing people is one of those places where your intuition is actually useful for the company, and you get paid to like read people quickly and well. It's fun.
It's oh god, what is that guy's name? I took the human lie detector. I took the class. What is that dude's name, and why can I not remember? I took this guy's class for years. Paul Ekman. Paul Ekman is the human lie detector, and like he has figured out facial muscles, and he knows emotion better than anybody else, just based on micro expressions in your face. So I took his class for a couple of years, and just because I wanted to learn when people were lying to me, because what else did I have to do? And like you start picking up on like all these different micro expressions, and the skill that I learned from taking all of those courses have come in so handy. And then I started dating the most emotional sociopath on earth, and like I can't read her at all when I can tell when she's mad at me. That's pretty much it. Any other time I'm like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. Why? I'm like, are you sure? Because you look angry. She's like, that's just my face. But it's like, it's a skill that I've been able to use. And like, I've caught people dead on in lies. I'm like, well, you just lifted a single shoulder when you said that. You're lying. And they're like, oh crap, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, if somebody's talking to you and they lift one shoulder, they're lying to you. Just a fun fact for you.
We're learning how to be human lie detectors, guys, here on the Fight for Liberty show.
Yeah, if somebody ever does this to scratch their face, they're pissed off at whoever they're talking about.
I did that one.
That
on
one's
purpose.
almost. Well, yeah, because you're angry at somebody. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Yeah, there was a video of John McCain talking about Obama, and he was just like, "Yeah, no, Obama's a good guy." And just like, "Ooh, buddy, you missed the mark there. Don't realize what you did."
Or he hit it right on the head.
You're right. Or he's like, "Yeah, you know, you know exactly."
It's kind of like how I talk about McCain now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, John McCain. You know,
Rest
something
in
about
pieces.
a war. You can rest in something. I don't even care if you rest.
Burn in hell, I think, is the colloquial term.
Yeah, I think, yes, I think that is the colloquial term. I think that brain tumor saved more people than he did.
And we're shit posted live, guys. Honestly, I woke up on the day, like the anniversary of his death this year, and the first thing I did was text my ex, "Happy John McCain Death Day." And then tweeted
if
it.
Ever there... and then he got banned for 3 days. If ever there was a reason to celebrate, that's a holiday I can get behind.
Right. It's better than Christmas, guys. Baby in a manger. How about brain tumor in a neocon?
Was fun. Like John McCain was one of the people that pushed me to libertarianism, because Republicans were always like, "Oh, John McCain's terrible. He's terrible. He's awful." And I was like, "Okay, why?" And they're like, "He's a Democrat." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he got the Republican nomination, and they're like, "You need to vote for John McCain because he's going to be the greatest Republican president ever." You told me like 8 months ago how terrible he was and how you would never vote for him. Well, now you have to. No, I'm actually going to suck it up and vote for Bob Barr. I don't even know who that is, but I'm going to vote for him.
Yeah, I basically did that one with Trump similarly. I was it's funny, the Trump getting supported by the conservative Christian right-wing Republicans pushed me away from both the Republican Party and the church simultaneously. Because I was like, are you guys fucking serious? Like if it was, honestly, I would have understood if my more like libertarian type friends supported him. If like my like stoner semi-liberal conservative Republican friends supported him, I would be like, all right, that makes sense, because he's like a New Yorker, he's a playboy, he's basically a Democrat. So I would understand like the way he was campaigning, especially in the primary. I understood the kind of like libertarian draw to him. But watching like a bunch of my the Democrats are evil because they kill babies, I'm like, bro, you know Trump has caused dozens of abortions. Dozens. Like, you just know that's a fact.
I like how you say caused. He caused.
I don't know how else to phrase that, because he didn't have them himself, obviously.
He paid for them.
Right. And I got a bunch of shit for working for the Tulsa
I don't think
campaign.
he was punching them in the stomach or anything. I think he paid for them to be done legitimately. He didn't push him down the stairs of Trump Tower.
I don't know. I bet there was probably one or two, especially early on. Like,
fair. But that was when he was a registered Democrat. So,
right, which was like 90% of his life.
Right.
But yeah, so watching all those people support Trump, I was like, nah, you guys are dumb.
Yeah.
But But yeah, it's weird to say, but Mitt Romney is what got me into politics, though. I hate saying that out loud, but it was Mitt Romney. So Mitt Romney is what gave me like the idea for what I wanted to do with my life. I liked the fact that he did the business into politics route, and he did it legit before Trump like fucked up that entire image of that.
Right.
But in 2012, the idea of like he didn't come up through like state house into Congress into Senate and then run for president at like 70, right? You know, he spent 20 years making people's lives better through business, and then did it in politics for a little bit, or you know, at least he thinks he did.
He was governor of Massachusetts for 2 terms, I think. And they say that he saved the Olympics that year. I don't know which year, but they're like, yeah, he saved the Olympics, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then that was 12. So that was the year that he started. So when he ran in 8, his hair was always perfectly coiffed, like just gelled so subtly perfectly. And they said that his hair made him unattainable to the people. So if you looked in 12, he always had one hair that was just a little off. And that was what they told him to do. They're like, you need to mess up your hair a little bit. So he's like, okay, how's that? And that was what he did.
I was definitely not paying attention enough to notice that. That's fucking hilarious.
That was what he did. Yep.
But
so
yeah,
that was.
Oh, sorry.
That Mitt Romney, like I was not a fan of him. I was not a fan of him. So for him it was weird because I was like, he intrigues me, and then he would talk, and I was like, he intrigues me less. But then I was like, but he still intrigues me. And I don't know why.
Yeah, all I knew was that he wasn't the big bad socialist guy. Because I was 14, 15 during that race.
Yes.
In 2012.
I don't know.
Yeah,
because I was idea how old you are.
Yeah, I would have been like 15 because I
just
was
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I was like just barely like getting into politics at all. So all I knew was that like this guy was the guy that was gonna support our constitutional rights to do things. Like that was about all I needed to know. It's not like I was gonna vote for him. I went with my mom to vote for him because like I was one of those kids that got raised like going in and voting with my mom every year because I was a fucking nationalistic neocon growing up.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that completely. I have uttered the phrase in my lifetime, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't need to worry about the government spying on you. I remember saying it. I know exactly where I was standing when I said it. It upsets me that it upsets me verily that those words have left my mouth at some point in my life, unironically.
Yeah, nothing will hurt me more than voting for Chuck Schumer when Alex Merced was on my ballot.
I love Alex. Alex is a great guy.
I hadn't met him yet. I voted for Gary Johnson on that ballot, but I went down and I was like, I don't know this guy. I've never even heard of him. He's not earned my vote. I had met Chuck Schumer. I hadn't met Alex Merced. So I voted for the guy that I had met and like interacted with and knew where he stood. And I don't know why growing up, my mom always called Chuck Schumer like the one good Democrat. And because for New York dynamics are weird because normally statewide politicians don't give a fuck about upstate, especially not like central and western New York, especially if they're not from there. And Chuck actually did. Like he was very involved with issues upstate. He was very reachable for things from upstate. He came upstate. Like he was a good statewide politician. Like I'll say that about him. He's not a good politician, but he gave equal representation to the entire state, even the red districts. And so, yeah, And like I said, I hadn't met Alex yet. Since then, we've become friends. Like, I consider him a good friend now, and it hurts me to my deepest core that I did.
Does he know that you didn't vote for him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I finally admitted that to him probably like 6 months after I met him.
It would be really funny if he didn't know and he found out watching this. He's like,
he's voted for me.
You,
I didn't vote for him. That's a funny dynamic there. Speaking, we were talking earlier about how you do all of your shit posting on the actual Muddied Waters account. Tell me about how you got into like meme lording and how you like the process for creating a meme.
So I don't create that many. I really don't. Like, I am proud to say that the few that I have created are the most popular ones that have ever been on our page. But like, I've only created like 5 or 6 in my life that were for Muddied Waters. Like, I've created others for friends that were like, look, you look like a moron. Look what I photoshopped into your mouth. But like, I've done that, but
of course,
right. Like, so in 2020, the biggest post that we've ever had, I made a meme, and it was a picture of Bernie Sanders next to a picture of toilet paper. And I said, which sold out faster this month? And like, that one went nuts. And that was the biggest thing that we ever had. And so I don't create that many memes. Like, my brain can think of it usually 2 or 3 days after that issue is over. So I don't get a chance to like think about it. Like, I don't get a chance to make a lot of them. So people will send me memes that I post instead. People are like, here, will you post this? I'm like, yeah, because I don't know what I'm going to post today. I don't plan that out. So thank you. I had no clue what I was going to post. But yeah, like, whenever I do, it's usually something that is kind of punny. It's usually something punny, or, you know, a turn of phrase that I think most people will get. Other than that, I am not good at it. I'm just not. My brain does not work that way. I want to add so I've written 2 books and a few screenplays and stuff. My brain does not think in like 8 words or less. My brain thinks in like 10,000 words or more. So I'm like starting doing a meme, and I'm like, well, nobody's gonna read this. I wouldn't read this.
I can definitely relate to the thinking of it 3 days after it's not funny anymore.
Right.
That's a lot of the memes that I post, which is why very few of them go anywhere. The best ones are the ones that Cajun screenshots and shares around, and I'm like, hey, that looks familiar.
Yeah.
That's why I started watermarking my memes. It was because I like actually noticed that people were stealing them, and I was like, this is cool.
It's so
I felt like such a pro.
So when the Elizabeth Warren thing happened, where it came out that she was like 0.00097% white, and, you know, she'd been telling everybody that she was Native American. When that happened, Spike made 2 memes that day. One of them was a picture of Elizabeth Warren, and it said, it's okay to be 99.99991% white. And that meme went just bonkers. Like, that was the biggest meme that we'd had at the time. And then he didn't watermark it. And then he made another one that was a reference to a made-for-TV Disney movie called Spooner. And he put a picture of Robert Urich on a quote from Lysander Spooner. And he watermarked that. And nobody got the joke except for me, because I'm the only other person in the world who has seen this movie with Robert Urich playing Spooner. and I thought it was hilarious. And I shared it and nobody understood it. And I went, well, that makes sense. And the other one just went, but there was no watermark on it. So it got stolen. So after that, we watermark any meme we make.
Understandable. So it's pretty clear that you do all of the prep for your episodes with Spike. And Spike just kind of shows up.
I'm glad people notice. Yes, no, that's what happens.
So take us through the process of what goes into the episodes.
So starting on, we do shows on Tuesday. So starting on Wednesday, I start collecting news articles and saving them on my phone. And then once it starts getting into the weekend, I start kind of going through them. And I always like to hold out a little bit because I know something's going to happen Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I know something's happening on Monday every week, but I'll start kind of working on notes a little bit over the weekend, knowing kind of what the show is going to be about, what it's going to look like. I start visualizing it, start picturing what graphics I need to make, which is funny because I didn't know how to make graphics until like 8 months ago. So we didn't have any. Yeah, I had no clue.
I still suck at it.
I'm not great at it, but man, I'm a lot better than I used to be. So I like it is a lot of reading all day long. I am reading news articles. I'm reading news articles. I'm going through like I read CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Drudge Report, The Hill, Reason I hit if there's not a story, and I'm like, I need something that's a feel good, because Reason will always have a story in there about, these people were going to lose their property to eminent domain up until, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is a story about them not losing their property, so let's do that. Mm-hmm. But I always try to like kind of visually map out what the show is going to look like over the course of the week, and then who did the research for the hot dog episode? Matt Hicks did that research. I had nothing to do with that. Fuck that episode. God, 14-minute story that could have been 10 seconds. But so I like map it out. And then on Monday, I go and I sit down and I go through all of the news articles that I've been reading. And then I'm like, okay, not this one, not this one, not this one. And then I go, okay, so this is the biggest story. So let's take all of the stories from this. We'll put those off to the side. And then I do the rapid fire segment that you see at the beginning. And I'm just like, okay, we're just going to hit on this. We're going to hit on this. We're going to hit on this. And all of those initially were supposed to have punchlines at the end. But now like only one of them will. And most people don't understand the punchline because it's only funny here. So that's why, like on last night's episode, for one of them, I wrote 5 different punchlines, and I was like, "Pick your favorite." So I was like, "Wow!" Like, whichever one you think is funny, read it. But yeah, so like initially it was, but there were so many news stories that I wanted to talk about that I couldn't make jokes out of, that I ended up just shortening them at the beginning and then going deep into a different one. Into whichever one. This week it was on the Omicron virus, which honestly, that is the worst transformer ever. Worst transformer.
All I can think of is that like rapper that was popular for like 2 whole months, like Omarion. Omarion. Like that's all I can hear is like the beginning of his songs. He was in like a Chris Brown song of some sort. I don't even remember what song I'm talking about, but just that soundbite is in my head, and that's all I can think of every time I see it. I read it incorrectly, and I will at some point in time call it the Omarion variant. Unironically.
The Omarion.
There's a C in it somewhere, but I don't see it.
I love all the people who are like, if you mix up those letters, it spells moronic, and I'm like, thanks, genius. That's not why they did this.
Although it'd be funny if they did. If I worked in a lab, like that got to pick the name for diseases, I would fuck with people all day. Like it would
Well,
be like Elon Musk level, like take 5 years to make a joke out of like just the various names of things, and then we're just gonna put them together on the website in an order that makes it spell out like taxation is theft or something.
Right. Which he wants to open up the Texas Institute of Technology just so he can call it tits.
I fucking love that dude. The fact that he took 4.5 years to name different models of his vehicles, different things, so that it spelled sexy on the website. And then he priced the last one at $69,420. And I just like, this man, like, Jess Mears is gonna have some competition because I'm coming for him too.
Fair. I'm not gonna say you don't have a fighting chance because I believe in you. I think that you can do this.
I think Jess Mears is probably a little bit prettier than me though. So
yeah,
I wouldn't blame Elon. So does every libertarian.
The wonderful Libertarian Party that when COVID lockdowns happened, they didn't notice because they never left their houses anyway. They got all of their sun whenever convention would happen.
I had way too many friends that were like, I'm loving this. I don't have to talk to people. I don't have to leave the house. People don't come within 6 feet of me. This is the best. And I'm like dying because I'm an extreme extrovert and like need to leave the house once a day to survive.
Yes, I understand that completely. Like I'm this weird extroverted introvert, and I hate talking to people. I do. I hate it so much, but I want to be around people. So like COVID was terrible, and it was like you couldn't be around people, and so you're stuck in the house having to talk to people. I love Sarah though, and talking to her was not terrible. But if it was anybody else, that would have been terrible. Like before COVID, I would go to a kava bar or coffee shop, and I would sit there for hours and not say a word to anybody. And it was wonderful. But it was the people that made it like that made that experience what it was. And then once they took that away, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be tired for the rest of my life.
Yep. Yeah, it was weird. I had an experience where I went to the mall by myself because I was home at my parents' house for the majority of the lockdown because I had gotten rid of my apartment when I started working on the road. I was like, this is dumb. I'm not going to pay rent while I'm volunteering in a different state. So when lockdowns hit, I just came home. And so like everywhere I went, it was still with my parents. And it was this weird thing where like it still felt like just home was traveling everywhere. And I wasn't actually like, getting out of home. But I went to the mall by myself for the first time in probably like March, which it had been like a solid 2 months or 3 months since I had like really been around people. And I could just like feel the energy of the people just like recharge my battery like instantly. I was in the best fucking mood. I was just like walking through the mall like, this is fucking still not really talking to anybody. Like you said, like you don't actually have to interact with the people, just like a wave or high five. Yeah. I was literally to the point where I was high-fiving strangers. Like that's not a thing I do, but I was just like fucking best mood I've been, like top 10 days of my life literally was just like this instant battery recharge because that was brutal.
Yeah, so like here in Florida, like our lockdown was like 2 weeks, and it was like, well, that didn't work, so go do whatever you want. But everybody had to like still wear masks like everywhere they went, depending on which county you were in. And like some of my friends, after like the masks thing they were lifted and people were like, yeah, we don't care if you do that anymore. They had forgotten how to smile. They were like, they took it down. It was just like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing anymore here. And companies were doing like trainings on how to properly smile because people had forgotten over the year and a half of this. And I was like, that's so stupid. You literally took people's smiles away for a cold. For a cold.
And that's why my YouTube channel is doomed. Fuck. Honestly, though, like I have said way too much anti-vax shit on this show for this YouTube channel to survive past the purge. Like, luckily, I have like 3 people watching this on YouTube, so actually, it seems like YouTube is popular tonight, which is strange. Normally, it's
you've
Facebook.
got Jimmy Lee, you've got Muddied Waters, which is Sarah. You've got Liberty Shamrocker.
Yesterday, I think there was literally 1 person on YouTube, and then like 12.5 people on Facebook and Twitter. And Twitter's always my most popular platform for viewing, which is weird because I stream to the Fight for Liberty account that doesn't actually have very many followers, but it's
then
still
you retweet it.
Yeah, usually.
But then you retweet it, so that's what. So people are like, "Oh, okay, let's watch this," and I'm not going to follow the other one because he retweets it here.
Right? There's really no reason to follow Fight for Liberty. You guys should all go do it, but there's really no reason anything meaningful from Fight for Liberty gets retweeted by the David Fight account. So it's pointless. Just don't bother.
Yeah, pretty much. If you see a tweet from Muddied Waters and then Muddied H2O Matt retweets it, that's because I wrote it and I thought it was funny. Okay, we'll retweet that.
It's great being able to just like retweet your own jokes. Or
I always heart it, retweet. I'm gonna like my own comment. I don't care because it's funny.
I like go on to one of my alt accounts and then like go through an argument I was in with someone and just like all of my tweets just to be like. Especially if there was no interaction during it, like no one was paying attention to this, no one liked either of our tweets. I'll go through from like 3 different accounts and just like them all, just be like, "Ha, I win."
So the way you get around YouTube's thing on vaccines, I've discovered, is you say, yeah, these vaccines are stupid. They're trying to push them. They're trying to mandate them, which shouldn't be allowed. It's unconstitutional. I'm not telling you not to get the vaccine. If you want to get it, go out and get it. It might help. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But the way they are trying to push them on you is unconstitutional. And then they'll go, well, he didn't say anything wrong. They have not hit me on that one yet.
We'll see how much longer that's a thing that's okay to say.
Right.
I really don't give us too much more time on that one.
I don't either. I don't give us much time on YouTube at all.
What's your backup plan if like January they just like take down all of your accounts on everything that's not an alternative platform?
On every platform? Yeah, so
just boom, you're gone.
If that happens, you know, hopefully we still have Anchor. And if we have Anchor, we'll be able to continually put out video. It won't be live, but we'll be able to do video and people can check it out. But we also wouldn't be constrained to a time. So I could do shows earlier. But I honestly don't know. Like Float will always have us. Float will keep us forever. So we'll probably just lean into Float real heavy. And we'll just be, you know, you can only find us on Float. You can only find us on Float. And if you want exclusive content, just go to anchor.fm/muddiedwaters/subscribe and you can get exclusive content.
Fair enough. Yeah, as long as you still have the audio,
as long as float's
video, and float. Yeah.
As long as audio, video, and float is there, we will do this for as long as we possibly can. And it's fun for us to do it. Like, we love it. Like, why would you do something that you don't make any money at? And for this long, 5 years. For 5 years, we've been doing this, and it's because we love it. It's not because we, think that we're going to eventually make enough money to retire. It's because we love selling liberty, and we love fighting for liberty. It was close. I was trying to fit it, but I couldn't. But we love spreading that message of liberty, and we love seeing the people. Like, anytime that we have somebody coming on and they're like, "This is my first time watching," I'm like, "Hey, that's awesome. I can't, thank you. Thank you for finding us. Thank you for watching." And, when you see that person, week after week after week, it's one of the best feelings in the world that you are reaching somebody and helping them, like, realize how stupid this world is, and that you're not going to fix it by voting R or D. I don't think you'll fix it voting L, but I mean, I guess it's a stopgap. But
I'm coming to agree with that opinion more and more every day.
Yeah, I mean, I see what.
Unless you live in the 52nd state Senate district in New York, then voting L is the best thing you can do.
Right. Like I said, that I probably would. I said on a show recently, I probably wouldn't vote for anybody unless they were a friend of mine that I agreed with 80% or more. And I don't know if I will. Like, I really don't, because I've voted for people that I have known in the past, and then they went into office and they were like awful. And I was like, "Well, you suck. Thanks. I wasted my vote on you."
Will you vote for Spike in 24 if he's the presidential nominee?
I think that we're contractually obligated to do that. I think that's in our agreement that I would have. I have to. But if he runs, yes, I will vote for him. But I don't know. Like anybody else, I have
That's kind of where I'm at too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I look at the rest of the Libertarian Party and the people who are running, and you have, Dave Smith and Justin Amash. And, those are the three big names that are going around right now. And I've met Justin. I like Justin. I don't agree with him I agree with him 60% of the time, probably. Dave, I've never met Dave. I don't have an issue with Dave the way a lot of people do. I don't agree with him on some of his stances, but it wouldn't be enough for me. I think I would agree with him enough, but since I don't know him, it precludes him from me voting for him.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I mean,
I just have to keep throwing up these super wholesome comments because
right. The amount of so I have dated like 2 or 3 times in the past. Just 2 or 3 women. That's it. And I have never dated anybody that's as wholesome and supportive and caring and kind and understanding as Sarah. And she is so much of a rock for me that even when times are tough with Muddied Waters and Spike and everything else that goes on behind the scenes, she is there to be like, "Don't worry, you are reaching people. People love you. You are doing so much to spread liberty." And Tommy Guerreri, the homeless thing is the thing I was thinking about when that was the thing I was thinking about while I was saying that sentence. But she is my rock, and if it weren't for her, I don't know if I would be as good as I am on Muddied Waters.
Well, that's awesome. I feel like a lot of people don't have great histories with relationships, and a lot of people have turned very sour to the very idea of it, and I think it's great to hear an alternative opinion, because people love to complain, but people who are just like in a nice, healthy relationship, they don't talk about it that much, and it's nice to like actually see it like as an expression, because it needs to be counterbalanced.
Right. For some reason, people go on people go on social media to, like, they say that's the life that they want you to see, but then they go on social media and complain about their significant others or spouses or whatever. And they complain about their friends, and I'm like, why are you only posting the bad stuff? Like, post the good stuff. Which is why whenever I post about Sarah, it's never, oh my god, like, she's annoying the crap out of me today. It's always, like, I cannot express how internally grateful I am that she is in my life and how much I love her. And people are like, oh yeah, you love your girlfriend, blah blah blah. I'm like, is that something to make fun of me about? Of course I love my girlfriend.
Yes. Gay.
You're such a Chad beta cuck. No, definitely not. Trust me.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up, I feel like there's a lot of caucus warfare going on in the party, and I just want to shed some light on a really growing movement, which is the Libertarian Guys with Disproportionately Attractive Wives Caucus, which if you're not the chair, you should be.
I think Spike is the chair.
I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree on that one.
Yeah. No, so I think the caucus actually got started because of Spike, and then I was the second person they added to the caucus. So it's good to know that I was at least the runner-up and the first person they thought of for that caucus. Also, it makes me think, do people not find me attractive? Because I think I'm very good looking. And I think I'm quite the catch. My mom does too. She tells me. No, I don't know when it happened. I used to get compared, like, people were always like, you know who you look like? And I was like, Leonardo DiCaprio. And they're like, yeah, you look exactly like him. And now people are like, do you know who you look like? And I'm like, Simon Pegg. And they're like, yeah. Like, I don't know. How did that happen? How did I go from Leo to Simon Pegg? But yeah, I
can see them both.
Right. I can too, and I hate it. But yeah, so I am one of the admins of the Libertarian Guys with Disproportionately Attractive Spouses, Wives Caucus. I'm not married, so I don't know how I got there. But yes, I agree. Sarah is disproportionately attractive.
I'm just trying to be part of a statistic there.
Thank you, Ben Heckman.
Ben is also a member of the Libertarian Guys with Disproportionately Attractive Girlfriends Caucus.
Gotcha.
We discussed this, Ben, because there's no way I would ever be monetized for very long, ever. It's just not going to happen.
Send him money to PayPal. Just PayPal him money. Yeah, so I was added to that group, and now I'm an admin. I don't do anything, but it was like when I was on the Libertarian Party committee. I didn't do anything.
Isn't that the job title, though?
I think, yeah. I think once you're not actually supposed to do anything. No. I was the vice chair. Like, the chair did everything. I was just there in case they didn't show up. But yeah, so there are a few key factors when you want to date somebody disproportionately attractive. You have to be a intelligent conversator, and you have to be a halfway decent listener. You want to be a good listener, but come on, let's be honest. That's just, we aren't. And then So you have to be able to do that. And then it really helps. It really, really helps if they have a passion like reading and you wrote a book. That helps. That's a huge help because then they read your book and they're like, oh, this book is good. I'm going to follow him on Twitter. And then I'm going to message him one day randomly. And then he's not going to respond for 6 months because he doesn't check Twitter.
Is that the story?
I mean, it's a little bit more in depth than that. One of this guy, I was going to say one of my friends, but he's a douche. This guy that we both know. He bought my book and gave it to her as a gift. And he was like, hey, will you write happy birthday, Sarah, in this? And I was like, yeah. And so he was like, yeah, this girl's hot and I want to sleep with her. And I was like, cool. I don't care. And so he did. And then she liked my book and she followed me on Twitter. And she messaged me and I checked it whenever I looked at Twitter again. And I was like, oh, yeah. I'm glad you liked my book. Yeah, if you want me to read anything of yours, I'd be happy to. And then we didn't talk for a year. And then
I love the cap locks.
Yeah, she's boomer posting. Yeah, the douche did not sleep. The douche did not sleep with him. But he
important clarification there.
Very important clarification. So then she found me on Instagram, or I found her on Instagram, and I had never seen her, and she was on Instagram, and I was like, oh wow, she's really attractive. He was not wrong. I mean, he's a tool, but he was right. And so we started following each other, and then she had a bunch of stories. She had her own podcast at the time, and then she was working on a bunch of holistic stuff. She had a company at the time called the Moon Sisters, and it was like all about wellness and yoga and well-being, and it was a cool company. But she would put up stories every day, and I was like, man, this girl gets like, she knows social media, and that's really awesome. So when I finished my second book, I said, hey, would you mind promoting my new book? And she was like, oh, you have a new one coming out? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, what's it about? And I was like, oh, it's about this alcoholic that meets it's about this guy, this really shy guy that meets a alcoholic sex addict with multiple personalities. And she went, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, it's based on a true story. And she went, oh, okay. But then she promoted it anyway. And and then we just started talking a lot more after she read that book. And it's graphic. I'm just going to say that now. It's graphic. And that was what hooked her. She did. She pre-ordered it immediately. She's going to get so mad about that comment that I just made, though. But so we started talking a lot, and she was living in San Diego at the time. And she was like, I want to move back to Florida. And I was like, that'd be dope. You should. And then one day she showed up and she surprised me at my job. And I was like, what are you doing here? And she was like, I wanted to be here for your soberversary. And I was like, oh my God, I love you. And she was like, oh, I love you too. And I was like, oh, well, this works out well then. And we have been together ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So really, you need to write a book.
Sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it has its benefits.
Also, sometimes being an author.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the writing of the book. It takes like good 10 years to get that part done. And then once you get that part out of the way, you're good.
Coast for that.
The other thing I've noticed is so Jason, Spike, me, all of us are members of that group, and pretty much everybody would agree that all of us belong in that group, except for the three of us. We don't agree, but whatever. So you have to be on Muddied Waters, and then you also just for some reason get disproportionately attractive wives, spouses.
Yeah, because Cajun and Eskimo definitely fit into that caucus as well. It's just an all-around thing. You got to have a
It is.
podcast, guys. That's the key.
Write a book, get a podcast, date out of your league. Because
And that is
those
how we make
podcasts-
liberty win.
That's right. Those podcasts, because then you're going to have very hopefully attractive babies, depending on the disproportionate level. You're going to have very disproportionately attractive babies to you that are spreading the word of liberty from a very young age. So
a bunch of Hitler's youth running around.
It's like 6D chess.
I mean, if we keep this up though, like especially like I grew up homeschooled. I have a small-ish family. Like I only have a sibling, but all of my friends come from like 5 to 8 kid families. And like if the like conservative like homeschool anti-government movement keeps up like this just mass production level, we might be able to outbreed the morons and stop like idiocracy from happening.
I hope. I hope, because public schools are terrible. They're so bad now. Like, I went to school in Virginia, not far, like the school in Loudoun County. That was the center of that controversy where the girl got raped in the bathroom. We used to play them. I used to swim against that swim team. And like we're not under the same school board, but they aren't different. They're the same. They're all the same. So getting away from all of that, doing it at home, so much better if you can figure out a way to do it. It is so much better. Sarah and I have been talking about that recently, and she is very gung-ho. She's like, we should homeschool. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work. But much like a podcast, I'm probably going to break down and go, okay, we can do that.
It is a lot of work, which is why I used to be very against it, actually. My mother and I had a semi-tumultuous relationship growing up, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that she was both my mom and my teacher, and I was around her for basically 24/7. Like it was a lot. And so I was always like, I'm never going to put my wife through what I put my mom through. Cause like, I knew that I was a little shit, growing up.
I get
and
that.
Like, I didn't want my wife to go through that. But now I'm like, it's gotten so much better in the last decade, like just with the technological advancements and the growth in that community and just the, camaraderie and like community that's there now.
It's a huge community now.
Because I don't think homeschooling works. I don't think that any parent is capable of teaching their child everything that they need to learn K through 12. It's just, I really don't think it's possible. But community schooling is 100% possible and a great choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. There's a group here, which I don't remember the name of, but there's a group here in Pinellas County that they do that. And, they'll
important questions.
Did I beat them when I swam against them? So there were in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia, there were 13 people faster than me in butterfly, but none of them went to that school. Because I was number 14 in the state.
Nice.
Yeah. You wouldn't know it to look at me now. I'm not svelte anymore. I'm not.
Is that what the H2O in the handle is for? Because you're
no, that's for Muddied Waters. Muddied H2O, muddied water.
I knew that. I totally got that already. I was
because
just
Muddied
making
Water
a joke.
Matt didn't. Muddied Water Matt wasn't short enough, so I had to shorten it.
Oh my god! All right. I definitely I was just So what do you think you get out of being a network rather than just kind of doing your own thing?
So because we have different viewpoints, we're all libertarian to a sense. Like for a while, it was funny. Like Spike was the anarchist. Jason was the libertarian, and I was like the more conservative. And now I'm the anarchist, and they're both libertarian. And then like with Cajun and Eskimo, you have two different dynamics and two different viewpoints on a lot of different things. So instead of just like once a week or twice a week, how often do you do your show?
Twice a week. Yeah.
Twice a week. Yeah. So instead of just once a week or twice a week having, one viewpoint coming at people, it opens up so many different options for people to see, okay, well, what's this person think? Or how do they view it? And when Jason has somebody on his show talking, you get that viewpoint as well. On Tuesdays, you're going to get me and Spike joking around for 2 hours, sometimes being mildly serious. But on Wednesdays, Spike's going to talk to somebody, or he's just going to answer questions from the audience. On Thursdays, I'm going to talk to somebody. So you're getting all of these different voices of liberty. And you get that opportunity to hear so many different voices. So people know that instead of coming there just to hear what Matt and Spike have to say, it's a place, it's a hub for people to go to learn more about liberty, about libertarianism, about what being free really is.
Mm-hmm.
And also it keeps us in the algorithms.
There is that. Yeah, and you guys do a great job. I'm a fan of all of your shows. I will admit I haven't watched very much of Jason's show just because I didn't know about his show. I've been friends with him on Facebook for longer than the rest of you guys, and I just didn't know he had a podcast somehow.
So he took some time. He had to take some time off because of some family issues that he had to deal with, and then he came back. I think that was earlier this year. But he's been doing it for 5 years. Also, he started before I started, but he took like a year and a half off, which was understandable. And we always told him, we were like, nobody's ever going to have Monday night. That's always going to be yours. Just you come back whenever you're ready. And when he was ready, he came back, and he's been killing it. His show is so good. His show is, I mean, I don't want to say it's my favorite show on our channel.
I think you just did.
I'm not on it. I learned the most from Jason's show. That's what I'm going to say. I learned the most from Jason's show.
Yeah. You guys, definitely are putting out some high quality content. You guys are all great people. I also definitely agree with the algorithm comment. Obviously, it just makes sense to be putting out more content like that. We've had our ups and downs with free speech media because we've had people quit the party that were on the network and like quit the movement and just like scorched earth, a couple of people, and just others that have left for personal reasons, and like people have just stopped their show or whatever. And
I saw that. I just texted her. I was like, yes, no, that's totally fine. Please order tacos.
Nice. But yeah, it's the goal for free speech media has been pretty much from the get-go to try to platform as much and as wide of a variety of content as we can that's free speech oriented. So we tried right off the bat to get people that were not libertarians on the network. We tried to reach out to people that were doing, I was really trying to reach out to some like kind of progressive-ish shows. There's a network that unfortunately scooped up most of them. It's the Mikasa Sukasa network. Nico House started it. It was really awesome guy. But then there's like Convo Couch, and there's a couple other shows kind of in their friend group in their realm that I met a lot of them through Tulsi, and I was like, I want to get that shit on there, and they're all like way out of our league to be like, come on to our network, because like they're out here getting tens of thousands of views, and we're like running strong at 12 when we first started out. I was getting decent viewership. We had Reed Coverdale on the network when we started off. We had a couple of the shows that like our shows were getting good viewership, but the network was like 4 or 5 people. Now it's starting to level back out, but yeah, I want content going as continuously as possible, that people can just like tune in whenever they're feeling the urge to learn about something, and just flip the TV to free speech media.
Yeah, that like pie in the sky goal. Like I want a Muddied Waters app that you can get on your phone, or you can get it on like your Apple TV or Roku or LG or whatever. Like I want a Muddied Waters app where you can tune in and watch live programming, or you can watch the archives. And like that is like my goal. But I want programming like from 9 a.m. Eastern until 10 p.m. Eastern, like 9 to 10 all day long. Like that is my end goal for Muddied Waters. And once I get there, I'll probably only be doing Muddied Waters. The writer's block will go away, but I'll do Muddied Waters probably 4 or 5 times a week. And then the rest of the time, just making sure everything. People are in the comments like, have you tried the grilled cheesesteak burrito yet? And I'm like, man, that sounds really good. And then they have quesaritos. I'm like, well, that sounds good too. Order me one of each. But like, so that's my end goal. Like I want people to be able to go, okay, I want to watch Liberty. I want to read about Liberty. So let's just go to the Muddied Waters app. That is the end goal for all of this. I don't know how to get there, but I know that's the goal. So if anybody knows how to get there and likes working for pennies, hit me up.
The app part is something that I very much also would love to have, and I'm working on. The content is the struggle at the moment. It's like because so many people just like put out their shows sporadically. I've really tried to stick to this like twice a week, 9 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday. Like that's where I'm scheduled on the network, and so I try to stick to that. But even I go different times. But thankfully, I guess we've had so few people on the network for a time that I was able to kind of be sporadic and always be on the network whenever I wanted.
You've had some amazing guests on. Like you've had incredible guests on your show. And I'm like, man, he's doing better than me on my show. That's incredible. Good for him. So I just got this today. So I know that this is accurate. Over the last year, we released 123, and this doesn't include Cajun and Eskimo. 123 episodes over the last year made it to Anchor. Some of those didn't make it. They premiered, but they didn't make it because the audio was bad. With 11,267 minutes of content this year, which is roughly 7 days. So if you start on Christmas Day, by the time the ball drops on New Year's Day, you will have seen everything Muddied Waters put out.
You should stream that.
Stream
just an entire archive for 7 hours. Just an entire archive dump.
For the full 7 days, all the way to midnight. That would be amazing to do, but good God, they would take us down so fast. Facebook takes us down after 4 hours. We found out. They will kick us off after 4 hours. But yeah, no, like that. Yeah, I don't know why. We found that out on the on one of our election specials. We were going through, and we were going through everything, and it was like, okay, let's do, we're gonna do this, and then it was like, right in the middle of a sentence, just gone. Like, oh.
That's good to know because I'm currently planning a special that's going to be longer than that.
Well, that was Facebook. So, do you even stream to Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and then Float, DLive, and Trovo.
Nice. I've never heard of Trovo.
Trovo and DLive are both mostly like gamer streaming.
Gamer stuff. Yeah, I knew DLive was.
But because games are usually so vulgar and graphic, most like things that are geared towards gamers are a lot more free speech minded. Unless we're talking about Twitch, because they suck. But the other ones are pretty good.
Yeah, we cannot get a foothold on Twitch. We've got like 47 followers.
Well, they also like won't let you say like pussy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, their list of things you're not supposed to say on Twitch is ridiculous.
Oh, I did not know that. Probably should have read that before we started streaming there. Probably why. That explains those times that I get the email halfway through a show being like, here's your Twitch summary. I'm like, it's weird. We're still live. Oh, well. Certain those 3 followers are upset.
Most likely. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I want to give you one more chance to shout out everything that you're doing with Muddied Waters, the shows, where everybody can find you and subscribe and support.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, if you go to muddiedwatersofreedom.com, muddiedwatersmedia.com, muddiedwatersofreedom.com, both of those work. You can find all of our episodes. I think it's up to date. Thank you, Jason. You can also find us on all your favorite social media sites. If you just type in Muddied Waters of Freedom, you can find us there. The best place to find us, if you are into those sweet, dulcet tones of mine and Spike's and Jason's voices, is anchor.fm/muddied waters, where you can leave us messages and we will play them live on the air many times without listening to them beforehand. It's a huge gamble that we play. Sometimes we regret it. And you can also subscribe, where you, for $10 a month, you get to talk to me and Spike personally next Thursday, and every second Thursday of every month from here on out. So, and plus you get exclusive episodes, exclusive content, and a lot of other really cool stuff. And, you know, to my disproportionately attractive girlfriend, I know this went longer than I said it was going to. I apologize. I love you, and I will be there soon.
I'll apologize and take all of the blame for that one. Matt, thanks so much for coming on. This was great.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to have you on my show sometime. This was a blast.
Yeah, would love to. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it. We're gonna be back here next week with Joel Getz and Eric Brakey from Young Americans for Liberty are the 2 episodes next week. So tune back
those
into
are 2
those.
good guests.
I'm excited. Joel is it's gonna be 2 very different dynamics, because Joel's a jackass and Eric is like suit and tie, like professional. We're gonna talk like about deep policy issues. And I don't think we're gonna talk about that with Joel, but they'll both be fun.
Bring up hand jobs with Joel.
Oh, of course. I mean, I'm sure.
Right. Because as I told him, giving hand jobs is still a job. It's in the title. So he was like, I'm running for mayor, man. I was like, well, not anymore.
Well, luckily now he isn't anymore, so I can say whatever the fuck I want, and so can he.
Yes.
All
right, Eric's a great guy. I met Eric. He's a wonderful person.
Yeah, I had him on the show, and he invited me to YalCon on the media row, and I was like, he thinks I'm real media.
It's weird when they do that, isn't it? When people are like, "You're media," I'm like, "Am I?" I
mean, I know it says media in the M with the thing, but like, no, not really. But thanks, Eric. Hopefully he doesn't like watch this this show beforehand.
Did you? When is it? You're going? Tell me you're going. You're going, right? To Yalcon?
Next year, yeah.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a great time. This year I did not prepare ahead of time. My booth was like empty. I had like no anything for FSM or for the show or for anything. And my saving grace was Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown having a booth next to me who is equally prepared for his booth. And so like the podcast section was just disappointing all around. And it was great. It made me feel so much better.
Yeah, that makes sense. But no, thank you for having me on. I will get with you and we will schedule a time to get you on my show because this has been a blast.
Yeah. We'll definitely would love to do that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.
Shut up and sit down.